Tony D and Little Joan with Screenwriter's tip on remakes and reboots. I think I did this video before, but I'm going to do it again. I was talking about it in another video. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy Horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 12, available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. So, remakes, reboots. To me, they're kind of the same thing. There's a slight difference in that remake is supposed to be very close to the original, whereas a reboot implies, well, we're going to start over and we may have a different take on this, right? I think, though, because of the way Hollywood is, remakes are essentially reboots if you're going to get technical about it. They do their own takes. If you look at, I forget what the original movie's called, but it's Payback with Mel Gibson. That was a remake of a movie with James Coburn. And it's similar, but it's different because Mel is going to give his take on it. You know, he's not the same actor. He can't be the same. It's a different time period. It was also, you know, a more modern era. So they're all essentially the same. So as a screenwriter, my advice to you is never, if you can avoid it, to be involved with remakes, reboots, because they're stupid, they're terrible, they should do more original things. However, money. And you may be asked, hey, we want you to write the reboot or remake of this movie or TV show or whatever, right? So, my advice is what you'd have to do is you have to sit down and you really have to think, what can I bring to the table here that would be different? So the first obvious example would be to be more true to the source material, let's say. That could be a mixed bag. If you look at Planet of the Apes, the novel apparently doesn't end like the movie did, and that's an issue, because if you've seen the original, and the original's brilliant, it has such a great ending. So yes, you may be more true to the source material, but it may not make for a better movie. I think the whole Planet of the Apes reboot, even the newer ones, although the newer ones are pretty watchable, I'm not saying they're terrible movies, I just don't think they should have been rebooted. I just really don't. But if you're going to bring something, I mean, at least what the new Planet of the Apes movies bring to the table is they are better, you know, in terms of their effects. You know, they can make, you know, it's not just some dude in an ape costume. But the dude in an ape costume had its charm. It really did. Of course, it was a challenge to the actors and everything, but I think, you know, to some degree they made it work. I just don't think their scripts were particularly, you know, they didn't particularly work. I will say that some of the script changes in the Planet of the Apes, and now with more modern technology, the story works a little better with those sequels. Not the original one, but the other sequels to Planet of the Apes, which is a weird sequence, right? Because the first movie actually takes place in the future. The second movie takes place after that. It's a direct sequel, and then all the movies after that are prequels leading up to the events of the first movie. Anyhow, this is a list, by the way, of IMDb's movies that need a remake. So I think 50 years is about a good time frame to remake a movie in terms of the time, unless it's a classic movie. So these are all around that time. Fear is the Key. I don't remember that movie. I think that's key. Attack Force Z. I don't know what that is. Convoy. I remember that was from '78. Yeah, that could be remade. It wouldn't be the same though, because part of the whole Convoy movie was CBs, and CB radios were hot in the '70s. Dirty Mary and Crazy Larry. I think they did remake that movie, didn't they? I think they talked about it. Breakheart Pass, Brubaker, The Evil That Men Do, Mr. Majestic, Smokey and the Bandit. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know if it would work. Life Force. I don't know if you need to remake that one. It's a terrible. I think it's kind of a terrible movie, but remaking a terrible movie to me makes more sense than remaking a classic movie. Kelly's Heroes, Roller Coaster, The Death Wheelers. I don't know about that. Scream and Scream Again, Race with the Devil, Young Blood. These are all like 80s and 70s. Uptown Saturday Night, Superfly. Did they remake that? No, they remade Shaft. Car Wash. They are remaking Car Wash. Mother Jugs and Speed. I remember that movie. North by Northwest. Don't remake that. See, that's one that shouldn't be remade. It's a classic. Uncommon Valor. Maybe. The Wild Geese. The Dogs of War. Maybe. White Lightning. Gator. Oof. That would be interesting. I mean, Burt Reynolds is gone. 76. Stroker Ace. Also Burt Reynolds. The Swarm. The Towering Inferno probably wouldn't work. Unless they made it in the 70s. Charlie Varick, The Guns of Navarone, The Long Good Friday. Well, they did The Long Kiss Goodnight. Is that similar? Macon County Line, Fort Apache, The Bronx, maybe. 1990 Bronx Warrior, Dressed to Kill? Maybe. Across 110th Street, Wolfen, The Right Stuff. Right Stuff. That was 83. And Daughters of Satan. So, see, a lot of these, they weren't very good. They certainly weren't well received. Let's pick an example. Stroker Ace. That was a stupid movie. I think. I didn't see that. Let me see if I can pick one I saw. Dogs of War is a pretty good movie. Man, Smokey and the Bandit I did see. All right, let's go with Smokey and the Bandit. So if I was going to remake Smokey and the Bandit, it was a vehicle that was basically built around Burt Reynolds, right? And Jackie Gleason was the old veteran actor that they brought in. He was very well known back in those days. I mean, he was like, this was not... I don't know when he died. I think he died in the 80s. This is 77. So I don't think he lived much longer after this. He was the guy from the Honeymooners. Bang boom to the moon, Alice. That guy. If you remember that show. He was a very well-known comedian in old Hollywood. Burt Reynolds in the 70s was like the guy. He was like in all the movies. He was the top box office attraction in the 70s. His co-star was Sally Field. Sally Field wasn't super hot, was never super hot, but she had a girl next door kind of look to her. So she was in a lot of movies too. This was a huge hit. They made a few sequels to it. So if you're going to reboot this, number one, Hollywood loves to reboot something that was already popular because they figure, it'll be popular again. We'll make another 3 movies. Not necessarily the case. The first thing you got to recognize is this movie was also in the era of the 70s where CB radio was hip. And the idea was they had to get a trucker had to get this stuff to a certain location. Jerry Reed was the trucker, and Smokey was after them. That was code for a cop, a Smokey. And the Bandit was the guy who would lead the cops away from the trucker so he could haul whatever he was hauling. I don't think it was illegal, but it was something that was maybe borderline legal. I don't remember what he was hauling. But the worry was, I guess the corrupt cops would stop him and take whatever he had. So, yeah, it was a tractor trailer full of beer over state lines. Oh, I guess it was illegal. I don't know. So Smokey is after him, and nobody's really a bad guy in this, although the Jackie Gleason as the Smokey was the bad guy. So it was all in fun. It's a very fun movie where you know, Jackie Gleason's character is constantly foiled, and you just sort of laugh at him because he's pathetic, but he's funny too. Uh, Bandit, Burt Reynolds is the cool guy, Sally Field is his girl, and then Jerry Reed as the trucker is his friend who makes the drop on time, and they make the money, and they survive. They survive, and they get one over than the cops. These days, if you made it in the modern era, you of course have technology to deal with, right? You got GPS. Doing this. I don't even know if hauling beer over state lines is even illegal anymore, or if I don't know how it was illegal then, but you could make something up, I'm sure. And then the cops have all sorts of ways to follow you. They got drones and helicopters and GPS, and it's a highly regulated world we live in. In the 70s, it was a lot looser. It was still, even though it was regulated, it was still on paper. There wasn't computers everywhere. Everything didn't have a computer in it. There was almost no way to track you. You didn't have a phone in your pocket. So this would be, the technology would be an issue. One way you could eliminate it is set it in the era, right? You could just set it in the era of the 70s, and that problem's eliminated. But if you try to do an updated version, you would have to explain by technology why the Smokey can't just stop the bandit. So he'd have to have technology, and that could be an angle of attack. You could say, well, Bandit isn't just some crazed cowboy in a Trans Am. He is not only a good driver, the reason he's driving in front of the truck is he has this technology that shields the truck and his car from detection from the Smokies. Okay? So you could do it, he has even more sophisticated technology. He's some sort of, computer guy with magical powers. Not magical, you know what I'm saying. You'd upgrade his girl. You'd make her super hot. I don't know, you'd drop in Megan Fox or somebody smoking hot, Florence Pugh or someone. And she would be his girlfriend, and you could redo that story. I forget what it was. And the Smokey is the foil, but he's not evil. He's just a guy who's obsessed with getting the bandit. And you could even make it a sort of sequel of sorts, right? It could be, if you're going to set it in the modern day, you could say, well, this is the son or grandson of the original bandit, and he's helping his friend who, is related to the original trucker guy, and it's all happening again, right? Like, they could all be related in some way. Or maybe Smokey is the brother of the bandit, huh? Yeah, you could make it more personal. You could upgrade it a little bit. You didn't necessarily have to do that. I mean, if you're just going to remake it, you wouldn't have to tie it into the old one. I would prefer that. I don't... Jerry Reed, is he alive? He might be alive. I know Sally Field is. So maybe you could throw Sally Field in the movie, just make a cameo as an older lady. Maybe she's the grandma or mom of one of the characters, and says, "Oh, you boys watch yourself out on the road," or just rolls her eyes as they take off and the movie starts. You want to bring something new to the table, but you also want to acknowledge the history of the old movie. So if you made a total remake, the old movies don't matter, you could still use Sally Field as another character. I would do it, though, like I said, I would do it as sort of a sequel. If I set it in the modern day, I would say, okay, one of these characters is related to one of the original characters, and Sally Field gets a cameo, and maybe it would be Son of the Bandit or whatever. Otherwise, I would want to set it in the 70s. But I like the 70s. It's sort of my era. Late 70s. You could have some fun with the period piece. Hollywood enjoys that. It would explain the Trans Am, and again, you wouldn't have to worry about the technology. It's usually pretty stunt filled, kind of like Fast X, but you wouldn't want to make it serious like Fast X. Really, Fast X is kind of the grandchild of these kinds of movies, because Burt Reynolds made this movie, Stroker Ace. He also made the Gumball Rally movie, and it was about racing across the United States and doing all these outrageous stunts. But it was comedy, it was light, whereas the Fast X or Fast and Furious movies are all very serious. You know, if you're going to make this movie serious, I don't think it'll work. So you would want to, and by taking away the comedy, I think you take away something from it. You don't add to it if you make this movie serious. There are serious scenes in Smokey and the Bandit. It has to be rooted in some level of seriousness. Like the threat of going to jail has to be real, or else the movie doesn't work. So you'd want to recast, of course, with beautiful actors and funny people. Who would you recast as? Well, the Burt Reynolds character Bandit would have to be a handsome guy. So you'd want somebody who was very charismatic. Handsome, you could go with Channing Tatum. I think that's a mistake. I don't think he has the personality to pull it off. You need somebody who did a little comedy. The best guy comedic-wise would be someone like Danny McBride, but Danny McBride isn't handsome enough. So you'd probably have to go to someone like James Franco. I think James Franco could do it. He's handsome enough. You make him grow a mustache, and I think he can pull off the comedy aspect of it. His girl, you want to get somebody like Florence Pugh. Who? This girl Sweeney, who I just saw, who's going to be in Barbarella. Anna de Armas, some hot chick, some smoking hot chick. You could definitely upgrade the Sally Field part and get somebody smoking hot. And then for the older veteran actor to play the villain, whoever is going to play Jackie Gleason's role, you'd probably want somebody, you definitely want somebody who's heavy set and funny. Now, the natural thing would be, please put away your pitchforks, would be Seth Rogen. Now, I wouldn't pick him because it would be Seth Rogen and Franco doing a movie together. That could be fun. I wouldn't pick him, though. I would pick Danny McBride, though. Danny McBride in a heartbeat. Danny McBride is heavy set. Now, he's not that much older than Franco, but he's old enough that he can pull it off. And he's kind of got that southern, dopey look in his eye that he can pull off. And it would be funny. It would be funny to see Danny McBride frustrated as he tried to catch Bandit. I think it would all work. Yeah, that would work pretty well. Franco and McBride, Smokey and the Bandit. How would you up the ante? Well, I think you would want to... I don't think you'd want to make their antics too illegal, right? I believe in the sequel, Jerry Reed was hauling a circus elephant or something like that, if I'm remembering correctly, something dopey like that. But you'd want to make it fun, and you'd want to make Bandit and his buddy, the trucker. The trucker can be anybody, really. The trucker was Jerry Reed, who also sang the hit song Eastbound and Down, which was in the movie. So maybe you'd pick, some country singer to be the trucker to bring in that audience, as they did in the Burt Reynolds movie. So I don't know, you pick someone like Jason Aldean or someone like that to do a new song. But you'd probably want the Eastbound and Down song in it, but maybe you'd have another song too that would be new, would be fun, or another version of it. They've already done another version. Archer did another version because that was fun, and Judy Greer sang it. You could even have Judy Greer in the Sally Field role. She's a little old for the role, but she still looks pretty good. She could probably pull it off, and she is very funny. So I wouldn't mind her. I mean, there's plenty other Southern gals. I mean, I want to say, what's her name? Presley. Her last name's Presley from My Name is Earl. She may be a little too old for it too. Margot Robbie, of course, would be great in it. Um, but you'd want to bring a little more, oomph to it. Hollywood, knowing Hollywood, I don't know, maybe it'd be hauling illegal aliens, but that I think would be too much. I think that wouldn't be fun, but maybe it would be. I don't know. You'd want to have the characters sympathetic to the audience. So, if they're hauling beer, it has to be because the mob forced them to do it, or they're trying to save their friend's brewery, or they're trying to do something noble, even though they're doing something illegal. And then the Danny McBride character is just a jerk who's uses the law. Like maybe Danny McBride has been shaking down the truckers for years, and then this time they've come up with a way to avoid him because they have to, because this time he's threatened to take away everything if he's caught again, and they just don't want to take the chance. So now they're going to bypass him because he's totally corrupt. Um, and I think that would work. Yeah. But in terms of the screenwriting, you just want to update it, the dated stuff. You probably want to cut back on the relationship between Bandit and his girlfriend. That was probably the slowest parts of that movie. You definitely would upgrade the car chases, and make them kind of ridiculous and fun. But I think you'd still want to keep the fun. That would be the hardest part of the movie like this, because Bandit was a very, very, cool dude, and it was about him. It wasn't so much about Sally Field. Although I think they get married at one point, or did they get married in the first one? I think they get married in the first one. Yeah, either got married or she leaves her wedding. I forget. It's been a long time since I saw the movie. Um, and there's Jackie Gleason. What we have here is a total lack of respect for the law and my authority. Um, so, yeah, I think you can make this work. Because again, it's old enough that most people don't remember the movie. It would be to a new audience. You can upgrade it a little bit, and it would be a fun movie to do. I'm kind of partial to it, and it's not a movie where the stakes are high. In that, if you screw it up a little bit, people are going to go, "Oh, this isn't Smokey the Bandit." You know what I mean? It's not that classic of a movie. It's just kind of a fun movie. Yeah, here's the romantic scene. I'll get off of it because YouTube, I don't know when they're going to flag me. But this was about outrageous scenes. Um, so, yeah, and Paul Williams was in the movie too. He's a singer as well. Um, so, yeah, I think they did do a TV series, if I'm not mistaken, based on this. They tried to reboot it. You would need big stars to make this work because this was a big Hollywood movie at the time. So it's just some things to consider when you're rewriting these things. There's only so much you can do to honor the legacy of the past and make a new movie. It's only if the movie is just horribly terrible that you really making a reboot, a remake? You're kind of just making another movie with the character at that point. I mean, once you change more than, I'd say, 50% of a screenplay, you're kind of not even doing the same screenplay anymore. You're doing, I mean, technically that's a reboot, I guess you could say, but um, the main takeaway, though, screenwriters, is you want to bring something else to the table. If you don't bring anything new to the table, why even do it? Which is why I don't think you should do remakes at all. So, bring something significant or go to F home. And that's it for me, Tony D, and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more bass takes. Trying some new videos on a Sunday. We'll be back with more trailers tomorrow. news blast, and a Hollywoke hot take. And of course, will be on the alternative platforms. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.